Growing up with grandparents who were Holocaust survivors, the question of whether or not to buy German cars came up quite frequently, and it ensued a quite interesting discussion. On the one hand, how can we support a nation who decimated our people? But on the other hand, why should we hold their grandchildren responsible for the acts of their grandparents who they may never have known? The balance between holding a grudge and granting forgiveness is discussed in our parsha. We are told that the Egyptian male, whose ancestors threw our babies in the river, enslaved us for 210 years, and caused the Jewish people to become so impure that they were on the 49th level of impurity, should he choose to convert, is not allowed to marry a Jewish woman, but 3 generations later, his grandson may marry a Jewish woman. However, the male descendant of the Moavi or Ammoni, the Moabite or Ammonite nations, should he choose to convert, may never ever marry a Jewish woman. The Torah states that because the Ammonim and Moavim neglected to give the Jewish people bread and water while we were in the desert on the way to the land of Israel, even though we were willing to pay for it, and because they hired Bilam to curse us, even though he ended up blessing us, for that the nation is punished, that their descendants, even if they convert, are never allowed to marry Jewish women. The Torah is teaching us that we do not forgive people so easily. Yet, the Egyptian convert is eventually forgiven, and after 3 generations may marry a Jewish woman, while the Ammoni and Moavi man is not. The Ammoni and Moavi, whose crime seems to be much tamer, are never forgiven. How are we to understand this discrepancy? The Sefer HaChinuch explains that there are many grievances that are committed against the Jewish people that we can collectively forgive, though it may take time. However, the utter repulsion that comes from being confronted by sheer repugnancy can never be forgotten. While the acts that the Egyptians carried out against us were much more severe, murdering our children, enslaving us, the utter lack of gemilut chesed, the public disdain of civil behavior that the Moavim and Ammonim displayed is simply unforgivable. Therefore, the Torah states, as a halacha Moshe Sinai, that we may never marry Moabite or Ammonite men who convert, forever, while the Egyptian men who converted are off limits to Jewish women only for 2 generations. Thankfully, this gzeirah, this law in the Torah, does not apply to the mistakes we make. While we hear much about improving our spiritual relationship with God at this time of year, let us not forget about our basic derech eretz, which, if lacking, can often be the source of the greatest chil Hashem. Shabbat Shalom.